Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. On this episode, we are joined by Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza podcast.
What do the roles, or how do you what do you think of the roles in terms of being, now you have licensed health mental health cares, right, as opposed to the church and the traditional way? Where do you fit in, and is there any clash with these three sets of spaces?
Absolutely. Um, I just want to say I didn't know that about the African culture. To bring two families come together. Hey, this happened. How can we resolve this? That's awesome. That's excellent. Many times the aggressor doesn't have anyone that can hold them accountable, or they don't allow anyone to hold them accountable. So that's just out the window. So in regards to the church, there are some members of the church, and at times the pastors, the clergy, are licensed counselors as well. And there are times when they are not, and they can do what's called pastoral counseling. And then there are times where they call me to come in and do counseling, or they'll refer some individuals to me. There are churches that encourage individuals to stay together even though it is abusive or it's not healthy. And there are churches who encourage the individuals to separate because it is not healthy and because it is abusive, and it's not of God. I have spoken to quite a few churches in regards to mental health. I have another speak that I'm doing next week, also called Saved and Sane, at a church here in Tampa, Florida, to speak about Christianity and mental health, because many times individuals from the church believe that mental health was a spirit, it was a demon. So there was no therapist. So there's not a lot of mental health therapists in the Christian religion.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. We are happy to have one of our most favorite co-hosts, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza podcast. He is a 3-time nominee for the Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APVA, and he is from the Republic of Kenya in East Africa. He has been recognized by Jollof Radio Media with his podcast, and he was recently a presenter and ambassador at the 2024 Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. Welcome, Sambaza.
Thank you, Jen. I am here today. Just the other day, we were doing another podcast, and
We were. Welcome back. Glad to have you back.
thank
So
you. Thank
yeah, for sure. I have a great show for you guys today. We have a special guest, so always glad to bring a guest for you all. And this episode is going to be talking about domestic violence. So we mentioned that there were some topics that we were going to revisit. This was one of those topics. So here we are to revisit. This episode is for you, for individuals who may be experiencing domestic violence, friends or family members concerned about someone in a relationship with certain behaviors going on. This episode is for you if you're an advocate and support those going through domestic violence, and for domestic violence survivors. All right. And so definitely want to revisit this topic in the month of domestic violence awareness. So your thoughts about today's topic?
you. Heavy topic, as usual. And I think we need to keep highlighting this. It's a very important thing
Mhm.
that occurs each and every day. Excuse me. And if you don't keep highlighting it, I think we're gonna lose somewhere. So shout outs to all the people who bring it out in the forefront and bring the awareness, and also are sensitive towards the plight of those that are in that situation. It's a very difficult situation, but I think it can be remedied with the proper information, proper guidance, and that's the reason why we have our guest today, and I am ready for them. Yes.
For sure. And I also want to share that Domestic Violence Awareness Month is observed in October for several reasons: to raise awareness, to support victims, to advocate for change, and to honor survivors. So we hope to do all of this in today's episode. And I think we're ready to introduce our guests. Unless you
Yay!
have another thought. Okay. Okay, so our next guest, let's see, is a licensed mental health counselor and the owner of Grow, Empower, Transform Therapy LLC. I'll say that again. Our next guest is a licensed mental health counselor and the owner and creator of Grow, Empower, Transform Therapy LLC. She brings a wealth of experience and a deep commitment to mental health, specializing in critical areas such as domestic violence, coping skills, and grief. And through her practice, she has touched the lives of many, guiding individuals through some of life's most challenging moments. So, definitely glad to have a professional to share with us in this particular topic. So, as we dive into today's topic, we'll be focusing on an urgent and often difficult, as you mentioned, topic of domestic violence, its impact on the communities, and pathways to healing. And also, we will specifically talk about warning signs. So, to join us in this conversation, we are happy to have Denise Timor.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Sambaza. Hey, Jen. Thank you for having me again. This is an amazing topic to speak about. I know many individuals do not like to speak about domestic violence at all.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you for bringing awareness to this topic.
Thank you. We appreciate that as well. Sambaza?
I want to say we thank you for being, vulnerable and on our previous episode, because this is not the first time you've come to talk about the issue. So we really appreciate you, volunteering your time and the space and to be comfortable to talk to us about it. I know you're licensed, but then there's that aspect of time and giving us space to be able to talk about this. Now, what are some of the common misconceptions about domestic violence that people need to be aware of?
Yes. So a lot of people do not always believe that it happens often, and it does. Another misconception is that men is always the perpetrator. Not true at all. There are many women who are the perpetrator, who are the aggressor and the abuser in the relationships. It does not just affect intimate couples, it affects the whole family, such as the children and the extended family as well. Um, a lot of individuals believe that it's easy to leave when you're in the situation, and it's not always easy for everyone. A lot of people don't believe that it's that you should love the person that you're being abused by, and that's not always the case.
Mhm.
It's not always physical either. That's another misconception that some individuals have, and they always believe that people should call the police all the time. And so there's a lot of myths that is out there and that happens in regards to someone being the aggressor or the victim in a domestic violence relationship. And we always see, and it's common for whatever reason, that the victim is always blamed in that situation.
Okay, then we wanted to focus on warning signs of domestic abuse for this episode. Please share with us your insights on recognizing warning signs in someone's behavior.
Mhm. So the abuser or the aggressor, they're very cunning. Okay. They have their PhD in manipulation. And so by the time the individual know that they're in this type of relationship, oftentimes it's too late. You know, that they have already been in that situation. So when the individual who's being perped on, the victim, does not have a healthy relationship, does not know what it looks like, does not know the characteristics of healthy versus unhealthy relationships, whether it's with family, whether it's with coworkers, peers, etc., they can fall victim. So you have love bombing, and that's just
Mm.
making you feel so amazed. They want to spend all their time with you so they can have a family, etc. Want to, lavish you with gifts, call you all the time, and really monopolize your time. So it's just not. So you don't have that time anymore, or that freedom. It's just you and that person all of the time. So it can look like, oh my gosh, she really wants to spend all this time with you. She must really be into you. Or, girl, he always just there for you, wanted to be there for you, et cetera, et cetera. But not
Mhm.
realizing that sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not healthy. You really have to look into that. Isolation is something else. If that individual is isolating you from your friends and family, that's not healthy. Isolating, isolating, isolating. It is not that, oh, I just want to, take you here or take you there or just lavish you with these things, but very much isolating you to weaken you. That's the game, that's the strategy. Another thing is just appearing as if they own you and speaking in that manner, that you have to always ask them permission for everything, or if you make a decision on your own, you're in trouble even though you're an adult. And
Mhm.
they will begin to talk down to you, down at you, or start off with little jokes. Talk about something that you know is a boundary, whether it's your family, whether it's weight, whether it's your race, whether it's your career,
Mhm.
and you laugh it off thinking like, oh man, they were just joking. They really don't mean it. Really look into those things and just don't take those things lightly. And just always blaming you for what they have going on. Blaming you. It's your fault. Oh, I'm sorry that you don't have control over your emotions when I was sharing mine. So
Mhm.
it's all of those things that can be lumped into one. And again, if we don't have these healthy boundaries in place or know what a healthy relationship look like, if we're not teaching our children, our siblings, or our family, many individuals will continue to fall prey to domestic violence.
Wow, that was great. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, do you remember when we were at the Offers and Audio? One of the male presenters actually said that they were a victim of abuse, domestic abuse.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, we're probably gonna bring him onto the show, but I doubt whether we'll have that conversation. But I guess he put it up there, and it was kind of one of those that was like, wow, okay, we got it. At least he's vulnerable and telling us of the situation of his
Yeah.
Okay.
And he
life.
was accepted because many times when men come out and speak about the abuse that happens to them, whether it's molestation or physical or sexual, they're not looked at the same. It's
Mhm.
an expectation. I don't expect you're a man, you're strong, you're supposed to have it all together. You're supposed to not get in these situations. But how are you going to allow this to happen?
Uh,
Right.
and the worry about in the man's perspective, when I look at a man, and I'm speaking in terms of well, in terms of how we would react as men, you're always expected to be strong, and you shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't be in that point of being beaten. Um, do you think it's more to do with the environment that we're in? That for a man to do that, you'll be scared to the point of i- if damn if you do, damn if you don't. If she calls the police, you're the one in trouble. You know,
Mhm.
um, something to that nature that makes men become victims because of that disadvantage against them, because you always looked at as the perpetrator all the time.
Got it. So that's not always the case.
Hmm.
Another misconception. There are some states where if you call the police on a domestic dispute, somebody's going to jail or someone is leaving the house. It's not always the case that it's the man. So there it is changing. Yes, it's a stigma, but it is also changing that women are also being taken in because we know that women can be the abuser and the aggressor as well. And it's been happening for so long, Sambaza, that we don't men has been quiet for many things for so long that we are just now hearing about them, and we know it has been taking place like years, decades prior. So now men are finally in a space where they are able to speak, and I love it. and we can really help these men and the women as well, whether or
Right.
not they are the aggressor or the victim. Because a lot of times when you are in that situation, you stay silent. You don't want anyone to know. Because again, why did you put yourself in that situation? Why didn't you leave before? How come you didn't know? I thought you were smart or educated. The victim is always being blamed for certain things.
Right. And I want to add something. Not add something. I want you to expound more on the different facets of domestic violence. You gave us just the little bit to say there was the physical, the mental, and the financial. Can you give examples of either each one of these three? Maybe kind of give each one an example.
Okay.
Well, we know
So
the physical. Mm.
yeah, so we know physical abuse is whether it's fighting, you're being hit, you're being slapped, or someone is throwing something at you. That's physical abuse. Whether it's some type of weapon or an object from the house, that's all physical abuse. Emotional abuse can be name calling, someone screaming at you or yelling at you, trying to tell you what to do, trying to weigh you down psychologically. Gaslighting can also go under that, blaming you for different actions, just having a lot of unhealthy behavior to where you think that something may be wrong with you, or maybe you're going crazy, making you feel guilty and thinking, well, maybe I should give them another chance, or let me be forgiving. Okay, let me figure it out. This was my fault. They were correct. Because at that point, they have already beat you down so bad that you're not even able to find yourself at that point. There's sexual abuse as well, whether it's unwanted touch physically, whether that's kissing or that's sex or any type of sexual activity that you don't want. You can't take birth control or you have to take birth control. Sometimes sexual insults towards you can do that as well. Financial abuse, taking all of your money, not give you any finances, you're not able to work or you're not able to make a certain amount of money, keeping the finances from you or writing a check for a certain amount the same time every week and telling you to make it work. Those are some examples of abuse.
Okay, I appreciate that. My next question, as I say, what are the physical, no, psychological effects of staying in an abusive relationship? And after they get past it, how can survivors begin to heal?
Yes. So a lot of mental illness happens during that time. Trauma, what we call post traumatic stress disorder or post traumatic stress syndrome, either one. A lot of anxiety happens during that time, depression happens. You have a lot of guilt being in a situation, you're ashamed of being in a situation, you're crying, you're unable to function well or function in a healthy way as you were. You become powerless over yourself, over the situation and the environment that you're in. You're placing blame on yourself all the time, and you are always second guessing yourself. So once you make that decision that you no longer want to be in that situation, whether it's by force or someone calls the police because they hear a neighbor or you just happen to be outside or you decide to leave on your own, it is so helpful to be with people that support you, people that love you, and people that have not walked away from you while you were in that situation. And I always will recommend therapy. Definitely get medical attention just in case something may be broken or medical issues arise from being in those situations, but definitely go and get some mental health counseling. And it's okay to, seek a therapist, psychiatrist, or psychologist, whichever one you prefer to go to and receive that assistance. Because now that you're no longer in that situation, it does not mean that you become healthier instantly. Your body will definitely go through a trauma. Your body will go through a trauma. You will have health issues because of what you've been through. You'll cry uncontrollably. You may have flashbacks that happen. You become unsure of yourself, what you should do, what you should wear, how this should happen. You may not know how to make your own decisions. There will be there will be people again that will come and blame you for being in that situation. So you may have to build up your support system if you haven't lost that support system at all. So we heal a lot in community, like we heal a lot when there's other people around us encouraging us as well. But there are times where we heal alone and we begin that process alone, and other people will come and will join in and will help in that process. It's a long process and it doesn't happen overnight. There is no, well, you're not in that situation anymore. Why are you still crying about it? Well, what is wrong with you? Or what, what happened? Again, the victim is always blamed for being in that situation in the first place. And the
Right.
victim will often blame themselves because in their mind, they should have known what to look for. When we know hindsight is 2020. So if you didn't know what to look for before, you know exactly what to look for now. Some
Mm-hmm.
individuals get that help and healing that they need. Other individuals do not and will end up in those same situations again.
And then Sambaza, there's a question in the chat that's along the lines of what we're discussing. If you
Mhm.
want to go there.
Definitely, definitely. Welcome, brother Ed. He always comes onto the show, and Ed wants to ask this question: why do many victims go back to abusers, and how does a victim break that mentality?
Awesome question. Thank you. Victims go back because the perpetrator apologized with real tears. That happened to me. Perpetrator apologized with real tears, was on their knees. I was like, oh my God, they really love me. Like I was really like, oh man, this is it this time. Let me be smart and give it like a honeymoon period to see if they pass that. They didn't.
Mm.
Well, a lot of times when we're as victims, we really believe that it's going to be different this time or it's going to change. That's one. Another time is because we don't know anything else. We were taken care of, we were provided for. At least I knew they loved me. But sometimes if I make them mad, this will happen. Or maybe I can walk on eggshells even better this time. I look at it as individuals that go in and out of prison. You've been in prison for 10 years. You get out 2 days, commit a crime, you're back in there again for so. It's just that mentality is I know this life, but I don't know this life. So it's so hard for us to change
Mhm.
because that's scary because we don't know what to expect. It's so hard to heal because now we have to look at ourselves. When I went through that healing process, I had to look at what did I do in this relationship in this time to put myself in this situation. Really work with with my therapist on that. That's why I do recommend going to therapy for like that relationship recovery that's needed before getting into any other relationships because you have to know yourself. You have to know what was going on. What didn't you know? What did you know? And now
Mhm.
that you are, you're doing so much better, are you going to do better or will you revert and go back to the same thing? It's like trying to form a new habit, trying to form a new thought about yourself. It's very difficult. It's always easy to believe everything that's negative about you and not the positives. And so, how we break that mentality, Mr. Ed, we have to want that. We have to become strong enough to go ahead and do that, to know that, you know what, I deserve better and I'm going to do better.
Oh,
That's how we
okay.
that's how we break that.
Jen, did you have a question? Before we go, I have a burning question that I think I need.
Please go ahead.
Um, you mentioned something, and I think you just mentioned that people should take note of this. You talked about a honeymoon stage
Mhm.
that you gave the person that time so that you can heal, so that you can see if they were real this time, even after crying. Um, the first question is, do you recommend this honeymoon stage? And number two, why did you think about that honeymoon stage? What was
Mm.
the reason for you having it at that point? Because I'm pretty sure before there was nothing like a honeymoon stage. It was like more like, hey, let's get in. And I'm not a therapist, and I know all that info. But I think in the beginning, usually is that part where you keep forgetting. Let's go on. We've forgotten about it. But you got to that point where you have that honeymoon stage. At what point was this that, or what made you think that, hey, we need a honeymoon stage at this point?
Mhm. Um, I forgot your first question. I'm sorry. So the what made me think about the honeymoon stage is I know it's a cycle. And so I learned to recognize that cycle and that pattern. And so that's why I gave a honeymoon stage. I was like, well, okay, so this happened before, not as dramatic, but it happened before, but it didn't last long. Because normally if you're fake, if you're a fraud, you can't put on that show too long. You can't keep that mask on for too long. You're gonna get hot. You gotta take it off. You're gonna have to be yourself. That's why I gave myself that honeymoon period. I said, okay, let me see what's going to be different. Let me see how long it's going to last before that happens. And I do recommend individuals have that honeymoon period, even when people are dating or getting to know someone, even with a new job, new friends, new business partners, etc. Have a honeymoon period. Are they going to cross my boundaries? Are they trying to test me? You have many individuals that will come joke, you're not a therapist is not a real career because all you do is talk. I'm not going to just take that lightly and say, oh, haha, you're joking. You get cut off immediately because what'll happen next is you'll continue to do that until you try to break me down. And so that's not going to happen. And like it says in the comments with Miss Tiffany Bird, she has poor self-esteem, and the abuser breaks down the victim belief in self. And that's absolutely correct. And that's because we have to build up that self-esteem, whether it's in your children, in your nieces, nephews, in one another. Even we hold one another accountable in yourself. Build up that self-esteem so we're not looking for that outside validation. We have to validate ourselves first. It's not being egotistic, it's not being conceited, it's celebrating you. So when someone else comes and celebrate, you say thank you, but you're not seeking it all the time or really believing what others say about you. And I definitely recommend that honeymoon period. Just take a look at it. There are many marriages or people who go through couples counseling because they are dealing with this type of abuse that's in the home, and they have individual therapy that we recommend and couples therapy, and they can see if they can be together, if they can change or not.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. I'm gonna veer off from our questions that we had planned. Lately in the media, there's been discussion of domestic violence. We want to take a few years back with some of our favorite celebrities or musicians, a Chris Brown, Rihanna situation. And, there were pictures of, you know, that gave evidence to a domestic violence situation happened between these two individuals. And, the public had their say, and then a little period of time went by, and then it was almost like, oh, this person went back to being a beloved pop star and revered heartthrob, as if it didn't happen. And it may have went on in other pop figures. If we go back in time, there's certainly other musicians who have documented being domestic violence abusers. We can go Tommy Lee. If we go on rock and roll, he was documented beating Pamela Anderson. You know what I mean? It's not a rumor. It's documented. It really happened, and things like that. So just your thoughts on the pop culture aspect and how people, go back to loving and revering, because that kind of happens in real life. Some people who are these abusers are loved by many friends, very popular people,
They are. They are. They are. So with the media, I say pop culture, it's the media. The media can
Hmm.
spin it however they want to spin it. We don't know the type of therapy the abusers or the aggressor receive. We can see if they change because we haven't heard about these things happening again, or if they're doing an interview, I think I remember Chris Brown stating that he saw his father abuse his mom, and as he thought that was right. And so to my knowledge, I haven't heard him doing this again. So it seemed like whatever was happening worked, or whatever I guess healing or therapy he went through, it seemed like it worked. But being in the media, we can spin it how we want. And so if you are an individual in a community and you have wealth around you and you have a system that's around you that's going to support you no matter what, that's how everything gets swept under the rug.
Hmm.
There are so many people that reach out, that call, that are prominent the community that is going through this, or the victim is scared because they are prominent in the community. Denise, what do I do? The exact same thing you would do if they were just a regular nobody.
Mhm.
Only this time, you also have to be careful. You may have to move because their reach is strong. And
Mhm.
it that is exactly what that is. There are some abusers who will take their victims around like, here's all of the domestic shelters. So you're not safe anywhere. There are some abusers who, like we
Mhm.
saw Ike and Tina Turner, who are
Mhm.
in so good with the family that it's okay, baby, to go back to that situation. There are so many individuals who will cry out for help to their family or individuals they believe is supportive, only to get like a slap in the face to say you should stay because it is not as bad as you make it seem to be. I can't believe it. They're such a loving individual. Look at what they're doing in the community or society. And again, it must be something that you're doing wrong because we like to blame the victim often. So it's
Right.
hard in those situations. That's why many people don't say anything about it.
Let me tell you, in the African culture, yeah, there is that mentality whereby, you know, people are, especially with abuse, there's some that it's expected.
Mm,
There's actually a particular tribe that says you're not a man if you have never slapped your wife or you never abused your
Mhm.
wife. And
Mhm.
these women actually believe in that. I mean, at least once in your lifetime, you have to have, put her straight, something like that. And another thing that but it's changing now. Normally, in our African culture, what happens is that now, say for example, something like that, abuse, or you disagree, right? The family structure was that you would leave and go to your parents. Now, when you go to your parents arrange a meeting where now you have to come and sit down with the other parents, the your husband's parents, and your parents. Let's say you're the lady, right? So my wife's parents would be there, and my parents would be there, and we'd sit down, and there'd be a conversation. And this will be a serious conversation with the old people regarding what's going on, why are we having this, and why do we need to have this, and you should not be doing this. So in those days, I think they thought they could remedy it with conversation and you being reprimanded and being put down and told, this is your wife, you need to behave in a certain way and treat in a certain way, otherwise, things will not be right. You'll lose the wife. So we don't have any historical data as to how it happened or how people lived after that, if they stayed or it was one of those things where, I guess maybe there were times where it didn't work out and the lady just decided I can't take this and leaves. But there were implications. The implications were that you had cows that were given. I don't know if there was a return policy for the cows that were given the bride price. um, but that was the African setting before. Now, as things became urbanized, they now moved to the church. The church was where now people would seek a refuge and solitude with the pastor or the preacher there, who will be the one to mediate these issues. Um, the reason why I'm saying this is just to highlight and look at the differences as to what you have between the traditional setting and the modern setting, where now you have what you do as a licensed mental health care
Healthcare
um, giver,
giver,
right?
right?
And
And
you are you help people heal through such things. Um, Now here's my question, because now we've got talked about both. What do the roles, or how what do you think of the roles in terms of being, now you have licensed health mental health carers, right, as
Mhm.
opposed to the church and the traditional way? Where do you fit in, and is there any clash with these three sets of spaces?
Absolutely. Um, I just want to say I didn't know that about the African culture. To bring two families come together. Hey, this happened. How can we resolve this? That's awesome. That's excellent. Many times, the aggressor doesn't have anyone that can hold them accountable, or they don't allow anyone to hold them accountable. So that's just That's just out the window. So in regards to the church, there are some members of the church, and at times the pastors, the clergy, are licensed counselors as well. And there are times when they are not, and they can do what's called pastoral counseling. And then there are times where they call me to come in and do counseling, or they'll refer some individuals to me. There are churches that encourage individuals to stay together, um, even though it is abusive or it's not healthy. And there are churches who encourage the individuals to separate because it is not healthy and because it is abusive, and it's not of God. I have spoken to quite a few churches in regards to mental health. I have another speak that I'm doing next week also called Saved and Sane at a church here in Tampa, Florida, to speak about Christianity and mental health, because many times individuals from the church believe that mental health was a spirit, it was a demon. So there was no therapist. So there's not a lot of mental health therapists in the Christian religion. Now, like we're coming more and more to light. That's the faith that I follow. Cannot tell you that I follow the Bible 100%. Not going to even lie, but there are many principles from the Bible that I stand on and that I can use and incorporate in my faith as well, because it's a part. I mean, in my career, because it's a part of my lifestyle anyway. And so, having someone that's licensed like myself and going to the church and speaking to the church in regards to mental health, now they have someone like me that can come answer questions, give feedback, be honest, and say, well, here it is in the Bible. And if I may not know, whoever's there on the panel with me can back it up. And it's just having an honest conversation, because there's so many of the what happened in the house stays in the house. So many of these secrets that's killing us, and we're out here dying. So I see the intersectionality will become healthier if many individuals in certain religions will accept assistance from mental health counselors, because they still come and see us. Or you have the family, why are you going to see a therapist? We believe in God. Well, God gave me the gift to use, and here I am.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. That was very good to hear because, like you said, there is that disconnect a lot of times with Christianity and getting help from a licensed professional. So,
Absolutely. And it's amazing. There are still stigmas around individuals coming to see me for counseling or trying to see if it's okay or that I'm not crazy type of thing. So
mhm.
on my Facebook, every Monday, I do an Ask a Therapist Monday. So people will either ask questions on my Facebook page, or they'll inbox me different questions about therapy, or if they are looking for a therapist, they still, they will contact me in my inbox, what have you. And I understand it, because now, even in our community, it's still there's still a stigma, and we know why there is.
It is.
And so now many of us are Black, and we're out here and we're assisting individuals, and we're giving people the permission to speak, to share their feelings, to talk about what happened, and let's really sit and unpack that. And so the successful individuals that come to therapy tell the truth,
Mhm.
really, 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 and truly unpack it, and they really work through what they have going on.
I see your posts when you put that on there, and I say, "Oh, if I say something, someone's gonna click on my page." And
People,
so,
I don't know how people will inbox me the question. They have my post and it comes to my inbox. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I'll just answer the question that way. Or we'll have a conversation with them. If I see any of my supporters or followers on my Facebook page, they post something I think it might be concerning, or you know what, I go into their DMs, and I love the
okay,
voice notes. I go into the DMs, I'll either text or I'll leave a voice note and say, hey, I saw your post. And I didn't want to comment because I didn't want anybody. I don't like when people come for me, because I'm not about that life at all. And so I just give them some knowledge, some wisdom, ask a couple of questions just to see where their mind is. What did you mean this, or did you mean that? And so we're able to have a conversation behind the scenes. No one will ever know, and that's it. A lot of times there's a lot of appreciation, because now they're looking at something totally different than they were before. Or and if it's safe, I'll go and I'll comment, and then people won't come
mhm,
for me, because I do like to share my wisdom and knowledge with
Definitely.
individuals, especially if I see certain comments. I really like to like, hey, you okay? This is what I see, and this is what I'm thinking you're meaning. Here are some things that you can do. If you want to talk, just let me know. If you need a referral, let me know as well. But I just go and like I'm gentle. I'm not, why are you doing this? I see comments like after comments, and I'm thinking, this person is sharing something. But
Mm.
we're not all as healthy mentally as we like to believe. So that's why I just respectfully go into the DMs and have a conversation that way.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. I am going to try to step outside of myself and share because I want other people to do that. This is an excellent way to, encourage people sharing because, like you said, people are dying. People are dying from abuse, people are dying from bottling these things up. Is too many secrets, in our culture, in our families, and we need to release and share. And you have personally checked on me with things that I have went through, and I appreciate that. So I just want to publicly say that too.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah, for
welcome.
sure.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Anytime. Anytime.
Now, we talked about red flags, right? I'm
Hmm.
scratching my head because this is about to be a bombshell here. So, the- we talk about these red flags and stuff that happens around, and in the point of you knowing each other, completely start denying the things that happen sexually. Like, for example, I'll put it out there. Somebody tells you like choke them or spank them, and at that point, how are you supposed to react? Should you have had this conversation before to talk about it, or somebody tells you what they like, you know, because at some point, like, if I did it, that's borderline on the point of abuse or something, because you have to ask permission.
You do have to ask permission. So if you are in that BDSM lifestyle, there is a culture that's there. So if you find somebody else in that BDSM lifestyle, you already know the culture, the language, still check in. So if you find somebody that's not within that culture, I recommend talking about sex. You are we I'm dating someone. Say you're dating someone. It may lead to sex. What's your favorite position? Do you like to choke? Do you like this is what I do, this is what I don't do? So we know if we're going to be compatible sexually. Like it's cool that we're compatible in these other ways. However, when it comes to that, and I don't, because if you're violating somebody and you start choking someone or spanking them or beating them, they may call the police on you, and then they come like, we were just playing and role playing because those things do happen, and that could be part of the sexual abuse that people experience because they can mask it as this is what that is. Well, they always have marks, but this is how we are. This is how me and my wife is. Why are you and me and my wife business? Et cetera, et cetera. So there, that's a good question because people don't always speak to that. They don't always have the conversation about sex. It just automatically imagine that it's going to be compatible and it's going to be okay. So thank you for asking that question because people don't always know or they don't know what to do. Or they look at everything else and they're compatible with everything else and everything else is good and great except for this. And then low key they're being abused and not realizing it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Sambaza, thank you for that particular question.
Hey, ask the questions. Ask the question.
Right.
So there, sometimes when we can see someone in that situation, they may not know. Like when I got out of my situation, I had people tell me, "Oh, Denise, I seen it and I knew what it was. I just didn't say anything." And so
Mhm,
my question to them is like, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Oh,
mhm,
well, because and the excuses came. And so I told him, I said, if you ever see me in a situation, tell me. If you ever see me not doing something, hold me accountable. Come and talk to me. I give you permission to do that because I said, I didn't know. No one sat me down and spoke to me and said, ABC, XYZ. It didn't start off physical. So no one tells the individual about the other parts of it. It's just left. Oh, I seen it. Oh yeah, I saw it. I seen it. I just thought you'll figure it out eventually. Hopefully, I'm glad I figured it out alive and not dead. Not many victims make it out
Mm,
alive.
Yeah, I want to
definitely.
put
It's
the. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
no, go ahead.
There's a story a few years ago
Uh,
where a lady was in California and the husband came. She had a restraining order. They don't always work. Um,
Mm,
and the neighbors watch him take I don't know if it was an axe or a sword, decapitate her head in the middle of the street. You know,
mm.
so when they heard the commotion, they just, you know, oh, that was they were just, a dispute. So certain things happen, and if you're not too sure, you can still always call the police and just let them come in and regulate it.
I think it takes a level of understanding, for someone to know a lot of the things. Like, I, I don't know if I've mentioned this. There's a sign that people put up, like if you're in trouble,
Mhm.
you're being abused. It's the silent one. How many people do know that? And they did an experiment where somebody was showing that they were the was doing it with this guy, and out of like four people, one person caught on and realized what it was. So much of it is about the sensitivity of it, and then also the victim knowing what's going on. Now, the
Correct.
other thing, Denise, is seriously, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. You could be my best friend, and I could see it going on with you, and I could come and tell you, hey, look, you're being abused. This guy ain't good for you. But you know what? Maybe I don't have a man, you have one. They were like, you don't have a man, blah blah blah, this is what it is, and that's what it is. And then when you go back to the man and you tell him to say, see, he doesn't have whatever, and then he's told that, I think at that point some of the people want to get off of that and try to support you in a different way to kind of circumvent that idea of trying to cause drama, that
Mhm,
drama, right? So they kind of try
mhm.
and support from afar
Right.
and see where they can fit in to be able to come and tell you, hey, you know what, you need to get out of here, you know. But at that point, when you're not ready, and I'm thinking at that point, the Stockholm syndrome has taken effect,
Mhm.
you're just not going to agree. And if it's one of your best friends, you could have been best friends from high school, you're going to cut off that girl in a minute, because again, the perpetrator will tell you this is a bad person. I don't see why you're going with him. And are you going to marry them, or am I going to marry you? Who are we building a house with? Some of those things that you may be told. And you see, this is where the person becomes a spectator from the outside looking in, rather than being there for you and saying, girl, look, whatever goes on, I'm with you, but I'm telling you, this guy is not good. And every day in your ear telling you, this guy is not good, till the point where you kind of, wake up from that trance and you're like, okay, you know,
Yep.
I'm getting it. Something ain't right here. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Yeah. So in that those situations, give examples instead of saying, "Oh, she ain't no good. He's not any good. Look at how she's treating you, or look at how he's treating you." Give examples. For example, this is something that I noticed. This is what I was reading, or this is what I've seen. We live in an age today of social media, sending different videos, or when you're together, because when you're separate, you don't know who has control or access of the phone. And you could say, remember when this happened? Yeah, I remember that. Well, I was reading and I'm learning and I'm doing some things on my own myself. And this is a sign of this, this, and this. Just take a look at, like, what do you think about it? So approaching something like that in that situation, it's a tone as well. And there are times where you want the other person to do something so bad, you begin to argue with them, yell at them, scream, and at a certain point, I'm not listening to you because you're just acting jealous. So I had a friend who was in that situation, and she would call me and talk to me. I allow her to vent, express her feelings, and I'll say, "Okay, girl, what do you want to do?" Nothing right now. It was nothing right now. So, all right, all right. Well, tell everybody hi. Call me next time. Then one day she called, said, "Denise, I'm done. Here's what happened." And I helped her through that also. Like we hung out, we talked about it, and she said, "Thank you for not leaving. And I said it's so hard for individuals who haven't been in that situation to know the most dangerous time for the victim is when they're leaving. Look how many people, once they left, or is trying to get assistance, or have the restraining order, they get deleted, ran over. Like the lady, what, a couple of weeks ago was shot and killed outside, leaving the courthouse, leaving, just leaving the courthouse. So a lot of times it's not always safe to just leave, but it's also a way to tell someone. If I came to you and say, I don't like what you've been doing lately, and I never give you an example or tell you what you've been doing, it's after a while, you're not going to want to see or hear from me. Now, if I say I don't like what you've been doing lately, you've been going on trips and living extravagantly, and you don't even ask me to go along. So now you know what's really going on. But
Mm-hmm.
we have to give people examples. Really have a conversation. Be humble. Approach them in a soft way and say, "Hey, I gotta,
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to you about something. It's something serious. These are some things that I'm noticing, and I'm just checking in with you to make sure that you're okay." It's like you and your significant other have an argument, and you go tell your family the argument and what happened, and then you make up, but you don't tell the family that you made up. Follow through, and then check back in. And if the person decide not to leave, okay, they may not be ready, may not be strong, or don't want to, and we can't control people. And then
Right.
just assess from that situation from then on.
Okay.
I, so sorry, Jen. Jen, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and we're pretty much in this space now talking about what to do when your
Mhm.
friends and family are in a situation, having that conversation. You've kind of shared what that looks like. I just kind of wanted to frame that that's what we're talking about now.
Absolutely. And it's good to when you are supporting your friends in a situation that you don't like, you're not saying that you accept the situation. You
Hmm.
recognize that that is your friend. If that's your true friend, you're supporting your friend in being there, having that open and communication because you know that the perpetrator always attempts to isolate their victims all the time. I was even
Yes.
told to get rid of all my friends. I didn't. I didn't listen. I did it, and I'm glad I didn't because it was my friend who came through and picked us up that day.
Hmm.
So we have to kind of, be humble and recognize that, hey, you know what? Maybe they don't know the signs of what's going on. Let me find a way to kind of speak to them in such a way that they can understand.
So they would tell you, for example, you don't need X, Y, and Z. You don't need anybody. All you need is me. You
Right.
don't need the other person. You don't need anybody.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
social media is great. TikTok is great. YouTube, just find different things on Pinterest and different things just to really be supportive and really be loving in that situation to your friend.
Okay. I see
Sambaza?
Tiffany has a comment. Tiffany has a comment
Yes.
here and says, "A true friend will always speak up."
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Denise, I got this question.
Hmm.
What about the forceful intervention? Because let's say your friend is going to be in danger, and in this trance they don't realize it. Would you recommend uh, forceful intervention, or it's like it's dangerous, it's eventually going to lead to something more catastrophic, so kind of revert from that situation, get her off. She may not like it, but maybe it might be a cooling off period to her to sit down and realize that, what, I needed to get out of that situation at that time, even though it was not at my own will, it was forceful.
Don't recommend it. The individuals doing unless they are law enforcement.
Okay.
Okay. You cannot call your brothers or sisters to go. You can't get together like, oh, we're gonna go and just get them. Many people don't make it out alive. Many people end up with charges against them, and they're still together
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't ask you to do that. And then you have to assess if it's safe enough for you to go ahead and do that. So unless it's by law enforcement who already come ready to engage, I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend it.
As far as an intervention, um,
Like just come at like let's say somebody's like you're in trouble, you need help. Me, Jen, and the gang, we gonna come and just kidnap you and take you. Situation like
mm,
that, I would not recommend it. I would
okay.
not recommend it. If you are able to speak to that individual again lovingly and to support them, yes, speak to them about that. If they need a place to go and they want to make a safety plan with you or create one with you, it is okay to go ahead and do that. But to force, because we hear stories, I called my brother and he shot him, or I called my
Mm,
my father and he and my brother came and now they have charges and they're back together and you're not going to court. You're siding with the perpetrator, and these people had no charges on them.
yeah.
So now here they are. So it doesn't always work out well.
It's like you're creating
But
a conflict, but yeah.
if your girls come and pull up and be like, "Look, if it's gonna happen, you gonna be in trouble," and if he's gonna try anything on you guys, see that
I know that I personally know that people that I
right?
personally know people that have done that and they were still together until they were able to leave. It
Mm,
doesn't it doesn't always work.
Okay. Just hold on that thought. Tiffany says, keep talking and stay there to support. Right
Absolutely.
mhm.
now,
Absolutely.
you said you did it right. It's
No
been done before, or you've had a situation where it's been done before. Now,
I
I
know
have a
people
question
that
on
have,
that
yeah.
part.
Mhm.
Okay. When that person got out of that situation
Mhm.
and got back with their friends, did they relate back to that time when they said, "Hey, you know what? We tried that intervention and tried to get you out of there." Were
No,
they
oh, that's a great question.
grateful?
I mean, it's a great question because there's many times where the friends will pull up and will knock them out and stuff. So it was some things that had happened over time, but I don't know if they have said thank you, but the friends didn't stop supporting. Now that person is in a better situation, but the friends were always there to support. They always pulled up when they needed to pull up. They took care of whatever they needed to take care of. That's just what that was.
Would it be better having a determined plan to leave the
If that
situation?
if that individual is able to formulate a plan, like you have a safe person to formulate that plan with outside of the home. If you are able to formulate a plan, yes, sometimes the best plans is the impromptu ones.
Okay.
Sometimes those are the best plan. I had a plan, it worked. Didn't even
Mm,
make it to that plan.
mm,
Impromptu, it happened, never went back. That was it.
okay. Yeah, I think it's important, and this may be a good place to share. Sometimes, if you have that reference, to share publicly, if you are in a situation where you're in danger, your children are in danger, ideally it'd be great if you could, neatly fold and pack everything. But sometimes you may have to just leave what's on your back if it's a matter of safety for, your safety or your children's safety.
Yeah, and just to let you know, guys know, help is always available, and you can speak to someone today if you have issues or you feel that you're in a abusive relationship or domestic violence. It's available 24/7. The number to call is 800-799-7233. Again, 800-799-7233. Or you can text beginning with 88788. I'll repeat that again. Text and begin with 88788. It's open
Okay.
24/7 and they have English, Spanish, and 200 plus languages that they can
Okay.
interpret for you.
Okay, great. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
and that is there a
Absolutely.
sign that when you
7
call,
and call.
is there a sign that you can call? Because normally people know there's something that you do when you call. I don't know if it's a law enforcement that you call or you hang up or say something, then they know that that's trouble.
Is that the pizza thing or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But I know
They,
if you call 911 and hang up, they're gonna call you back.
but there's a word you say, and it's like a tag word. I think that's out there.
Oh, we're gonna find out.
Also,
Mhm.
say I want to say I saw a TikTok about saying like act like you're ordering a pizza, and they may know that you. But yeah, let's find that out for sure.
Let's see.
Once we find out, we'll definitely put it right back in here on this podcast.
Okay, for sure. And
Yeah.
thank you for engaging, Sambaza. It's definitely good to have a male perspective in this conversation. I know I said that last time we talked about this, but I mean it, and we appreciate you sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Domestic violence affects men, women, children, of the whole family.
Hmm.
Now, Denise, out
Definitely.
of all this, having learned all this, do you have any resources that are available when someone is in a domestic violence situation, and how can they access them? Well, we just give them the hotline. The hotline is the first line of action. Now, what's the next step that they can react if they don't need to call that 911 immediately? Maybe some other line that they can call and get help.
I recommend the lines that you stated because it's nationwide. So by different state, like if you're here in the Florida Tampa Bay area, I still recommend those two numbers. I still recommend calling 911. Um, then there are different shelters in our area that so far they're only for women. So we do not have a men's shelter. We do not have a shelter for men to go when they were in that type of relationship,
So what
except the
happens?
regular men's shelter that they will have to qualify for to get in.
So what happens to the men?
They're on the street or family, if there's family, or go to like the shelter at like the Salvation Army or just a regular men's shelter. But other than that, they're on the street or they stay in a situation.
That's cold.
Very much so. Very, very much so. There's a lot of resources that's needed.
Hmm.
A lot of resources and services that is needed. I don't know if there is a state that has a shelter for domestic violence for men to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's that hurt. That hurt.
Yes, because we have many men who are in that situation who would love to leave if there is a shelter or somewhere to go, and it's not.
All right. And Tiffany says here again, don't provoke the abuser or your loved one might get hurt. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
the catch 22 right there.
Because sometimes Tiffany, the abuser, you just breathing could provoke the abuser.
Hmm.
But definitely understand what you mean and not threatening the abuser with friends or family to come over or anything like that. Because
Hmm.
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. And we thank you for sharing those details. There were a few key points I wanted to make sure that we addressed in this episode. I think we have done that
Mhm.
with the understanding the different types of domestic violence. We've definitely covered that. The warning signs, that was really crucial that I wanted to make sure that we touched on. So, yes.
So thank you guys for having me.
Okay, for sure.
Wait,
Absolutely. Go ahead,
we have the
Sambaza.
uh, I think can we find out if we have any male shelters? If you can find out any information, and if you can join us on the live, it'll be appropriate. I know you sleep early, um, but you're welcome to join our live. We'll let you know.
Oh, when we talk about it, okay.
Yeah, we have three. We usually have three key pointers of from today that we discuss and what we got out of today. I think tomorrow, if you come and join us, you can tell us a little bit about the male shelters. If you found out any information regarding that, because I think that is one key.
Hmm.
I'm really, I'm really bothered about it, and I think I'm gonna have to do some research tonight, and maybe you can do some research and tell us what exactly you have in terms of shelters for men. Would that be a good way to end the show and have people coming tomorrow to find out that information?
Right, right. Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
sounds
Absolutely.
great. Okay, so Sambaza is planning a IG live as a recap following our episode today. So more details on that. If all of you all are welcome to join us over on Sambaza Podcast IG.
Right. It'll be on Sambaza
Okay.
IG Live, and it'll be tomorrow evening. We'll let you guys know on ahead of time, and then you can join in for the discussion. It's more interactive than this because there's you all feel free to talk and say what you want at that point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great. And I hope to have some men's shelters. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a wealth of information. We appreciate you so much, Denise,
So
and
welcome.
much continued success with your business and
And
helping
helping
people.
people. Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Hey! You can't leave. Wait, we gotta know your socials, what
Yeah.
the business is all
Mm.
about, and what's
Yeah.
upcoming. Come on
Yeah,
now.
please share.
Yes, I'm in Tampa Bay, Florida, where we just had a couple of hurricanes come through. We're still recovering from that. Actually, by the
Mm.
way, it's still some flooding in areas. People still are displaced. My internet is still not working right since the hurricane. There's still some things. There's a lot of healing that's needed out here. A lot of recovery that's needed, and volunteering twice next week with the Pinellas County Urban League. I'm just offering that assistance for individuals out there. As I stated, next Tuesday, I'll be at a church speaking about saved and sane mental health and Christianity. Also, have in December our next seminar coming up, seminar/workshop. It's She Broke Me, Healing the Mother and Son Relationship. We really want to teach them, mothers and sons, how to have a healthy relationship. We want to show them what the negative impacts of that relationship has done on their son. Now the son, is an adult or is growing or maybe a teenager. We want to encourage the mothers and teach them how to cultivate that healthy relationship. We want to teach the sons how to work through that. And we also want to teach the mothers how to work through that as well. And in February, we're gonna have a cousin. We're gonna welcome cousins to the cookout, and we're gonna unpack that. What happens in the house stays in the house, and we want to have some good food. Want to play some spades, play some dominoes, and really just sit and have a conversation with the cousins and siblings, and just teach them how to have those conversations at
Mhm.
home. Teach them how begin to have those conversations about having a healthy relationship, in the home. Do we always have to hug the aunties and uncles that know us when we were born and we have no idea who they are? Like, I don't know you. And like, why am I
Mhm.
talking to this individual? But because it's cultural and it's passed down, that's what happens. So we're me and my team, we're excited for those events that's coming up. I'm excited for what I'm going to do next week. So I am located in the Tampa Bay area, and my business is Grow, Empower, Transform Therapy. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, YouTube. Also, it's a lot. It's so much that it's just a lot. If you need to contact me, phone number is 813-563-8227. 813-563-8227. Text me. I'll text you back. Let me know how I can assist you, and I got you. And if I can't, I have colleagues that love doing this work as well.
We got one.
Awesome. We'll have those in the show notes for the audio episode. Go ahead, Samantha.
We got now one mic says ndani kama sim card. Now that's Swahili meaning in like a SIM card.
Mhm.
You know, one mic is the one mic show. Is one of the producers and the one of the hosts of the one mic show that I visited just the other day. So he's coming in to show his support, and thank you, one mic,
Thank you.
Thank you for
for
sure.
information. And yes, we'll put it on. We'll put your socials out there. I'm glad that you're on TikTok. I'm yet to
Yes.
see you growing up something. Hopefully. But
Yes.
yeah,
I'll make sure that you guys have all of my contact information. Thank you again for having me.
you're always welcome.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Any other thoughts, Sambaza?
Nah, Jen, look, we're done. I am ready for tomorrow with that research and take us home.
All right, sounds great. So, we again thank you guys for joining us. We hope that today's conversation have inspired and enlightened you. Hey, family. If you found today's episode meaningful, please consider sharing it with friends, family, colleagues. Our collective awareness and advocacy play a crucial role in creating positive change. Please stay tuned for more engaging content, and we look forward to continuing these important conversations in the future. And we appreciate you guys being a part of Woke by Accident Sambaza collaboration. So until next time, Denise, please stick around for our proper goodbye. But everyone else, thank you and take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out. And also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. And please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.